Lost in the Country, a story by Toby Wacker, 2011. Joanne turned the key in the ignition, and the car rumbled awake. The breeze came through the rolled-down windows, crisp and clear after last night's storm, and a cardinal sang from the branches overhead. "Don't let me forget to get lettuce, Sparky," she said to the little dog in the passenger seat. "Arf!" he replied. Crab apples crunched beneath the wheels as she drove out of the driveway. Soon she came to a large tree splintered in two halfway up its trunk, the top part lying across the road. The car in front of her had stopped and was now turning onto a side road. "Oh my," she said. "The storm last night must have knocked it down. We'll never get to the store this way." She followed the other car onto a gravel lane. Soon the lane forked and the car ahead of her went left. "I think that's a dead end," she mused, turning right. "This one might get us there, though." It twisted and turned for a long time, and just as she was beginning to think it would have been better to take the left fork after all, the road went up a little rise and she saw a creek ahead, with a bridge crossing it. Beside the road was a large sign painted in curly purple letters onto graying wood. It looked old and weathered, but she could still make it out. She slowed the car to stop and read it. "Traveler who comes this way, think before you pass me by. For there may be a price to pay, one you judge to be too high. The road is short, the way is long. Things may not be what they seem. If you're wise and if you're strong, then by all means cross the stream." "What a strange sign!" The old lady shook her head. "What do you suppose they mean about a price? Are they going to put a toll booth in? I wouldn't think it's the right kind of road for that at all." She started the car moving forward again. "It does say the road is short, and it looks like it's going in the right direction. Don't you think so, Sparky?" "Woof!" Sparky answered. The car crested the arch of the bridge and rolled down the other side, and continued along the gravel road, past cornfields on both sides. She rounded a bend, then blinked and stopped the car. On the right, there was a patch of corn about the size of the car. It wasn't the usual color at all, but a blue that was brighter than the sky overhead. "What on earth is that?" she said, and laughed. "Could be some kids came and spray-painted them for some sort of joke, or I don't know. You want to get out and take a closer look, Sparky?" "Yes," he said. "There might be squirrels." Joanne jumped in her seat and stared at him. "What? Now you can talk!" she exclaimed. Sparky sat straight up and cocked his ears. "Why, it seems that I can. Imagine that. I must say, this is really a pleasant surprise. Getting across to you people ought to be much easier now." "But you can't talk," said Joanne in bewilderment. Sparky gave a huff. "I should think you would be quite capable of observing that I can, and I am. And I must point out that I have been talking my whole life, and you still haven't learned to understand me very well at all. It's only fitting that I learn to speak your language before you learn to speak mine." Joanne shook her head slowly. "I would never have expected it, Sparky," she said. "Now that," said the dog, "is the one thing I most earnestly wish to talk to you about." "Sparky? Why in heaven's name did you decide to call me Sparky? At least you and the human male can remember it, unlike some of the intruders who call me such things as Sparkles, or even Spike. It leaves such little room for dignity. You can hardly wonder if I don't respond to it very often." He raised his nose. "Some years ago, I decided that the name I choose for myself is Reginald. Much better, all told." said Joanne. Okay. She looked around. The cornfields had disappeared. Instead, they were surrounded by steep, rocky slopes and cliffs. Wait a minute, Sparky, Reggie, where are we? Reginald, corrected Reginald. He sniffed the air. We are in a very stony place, unexpectedly so. Well, I know that, she muttered. She got out of the car. Reginald followed her, giving her a disgusted look when she reached for the leash. "Hello," said a mournful voice from behind them. Reginald shook his head, his ears flapping. Joanne turned to see only the gray rocks. "Who said that?" she asked. "I did," said the voice, and there was a heavy sigh. "Not that it matters." The stone shifted, and one of them rolled down the slope to the ground. A pair of eyes appeared on it and blinked. "A talking rock?" said Joanne. "Well, this day just gets stranger and stranger." "I'm a sad rock," said the rock. Its mouth drooped. "We're all sad rocks." Other rocks around it stirred and sighed. She shook her head. "Look, how do we get out of here?" The cliffs seemed to box them in. The sad rock rolled across the ground to an opening partly hidden by a curve of the slope, just big enough to drive through. "Of course you want to leave us. Everyone does. Just go through there." "Thank you." She started for the car, but immediately more rocks, as big as her head, shot out from the wall and landed in front of her. "No!" one of them roared. "We are angry rocks, and you won't leave." They formed a line, blocking the exit. "That," she began, but was interrupted by a giggle from behind her. "Silly angries! Silly angries! You never want to play!" More rocks, fist-sized chunks of sandstone, skittered across the ground. They bounced up and down at her feet. "Are you here to play with us? Are you? Are you? Do you have a new game?" "Happies," grumbled one of the angry rocks. "Go away. They aren't playing with you, and they aren't leaving." "Grrr. They're like little squirrels," muttered Reginald. "So chaseable." "Aha," said Joanne. "Look, Happy Rocks, I have a wonderful new game for you. It's called Tag, and what you do is you chase the angry rocks, and when you catch them, you jump on them. I promise it will be very fun." "New game! New game!" they squealed and rushed forward. The angry rocks roared in dismay and fled, some of them disappearing under piles of giggling Happy Rocks. "Come on, Sparky," she said. He didn't stop to correct her. They got into the car, and she sped forward through the opening. Right in front of them was the same gravel lane they'd been on. She shook her head, but didn't waste time wondering about it. Once on the road, she glanced back and saw no sign of the rocky place they had just left. Very soon, the land looked familiar. Houses became more frequent, and she turned onto her own street. She pulled up into the driveway, crab apples crunching beneath the tires. She eased the car to a stop and sighed. "Well, we made it, Reggie," she said. "Although we didn't get to the store, did we? Maybe we'll try again tomorrow." "Ruff," said Sparky, and wagged his tail.